And we are live, and so let's see what's happening. Okay. Ah, there we go. Yay! And we are live. Yay! Wow. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I wonder if I should go on Instagram and let everybody know that I'm live here on YouTube. But we're just going to go ahead and just go ahead and get started. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome again. Because what that does, it clears the air, it clears your field of energy, and also it starts off by regulating your nervous system so that the transmission in the frequency that I am going to be transmitting in could be easily received, right? So we're going to do some breath work initially first. And so what we're going to do, we're going to breathe in, right, in the count of 4, and we're going to hold for 2 seconds, and we're going to exhale through the mouth in the count of 6. So we're going to breathe in through the nose in the count of 4, and we're going to hold for 2 seconds, and we're going to exhale through the mouth in the count of 6. All right, so we're going to start first, and let's begin, right? Okay. Okay. So we do this 3 times. Hola, Cosmos. Cosmos has entered the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for tuning into my frequency. I'm so divinely grateful to have you here on the YouTube side. And welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. Yay. Thank you for being here. So, in the essence of doing breath work, what that does is it clears your energy field and it prepares your nervous system for the transmission that is going to be transmitted for whatever field, energy field that you are embarking upon. So it's good to do breath work in any, if you think about it before you in any thing that you actually come across. So that is what that is for. So let me go ahead and get started with my disclaimers. I'm not here to tell anybody what to do or how to be. I'm only here to give an example of how I understand those who have chosen to not only remember, but for those who have chosen to leave those breadcrumbs for their path of understanding their now moment. So for me to tell you what to do is not cohesive or conducive for what it is that you have chosen, because you are here to create, not to be told what to do, because you are creating your own relative reality. I'm only to be an example of a beacon of light. So when you are ready to choose this essence of being, you know that it exists to be chosen. So I'm not here to tell tell anybody what to do. However, I am here to give you something to think about, right? And any content creator, celebrity, or anyone for that matter that I speak upon on this platform, all information is heavily, heavily alleged, for I am not there to account or attest the validity of such said information that has been placed out there for public consumption. I'm only utilizing that information for an example for what I make relevant to what I am saying here on this platform, but anything other than that, it is heavily, heavily alleged. And last but not least, right, I move in the premise and the foundation of unconditional love. There is no judgment, because to judge anything is to judge myself, right? All right, so with that being said, we are going to get started, right? So let's see. I did want to go ahead and carry over some information that I had been speaking upon on my Instagram live. I wanted to carry over some information regarding the Great Reset, and I wanted to do a question and an answer basis for anybody that may have any questions or any answers regarding to what the Great Reset. And the reason being that I came up with doing a Great Reset, because recently, as of yesterday, it was brought to my attention that they were saying that I think it was not the resurrection. It was I forgot what it was, but the rapture, the great rapture was actually the great rapture was actually going to commence. And I don't want to make a mockery of what that entail, because it does have some significance to how, that storyline is placed out there for public consumption for people that actually believe in what the rapture is, at the consciousness that it was conceptualized in. And I wanted to bring more of a, how can I say, more of an ascended version, sense of understanding to what one may perceive what the rapture is, a more ascended version to that in terms of what the Great Reset is. Now, I will say that this may not land, for everybody, because it's not for everybody, because there is a plethora of how this particular aspect of understanding is weaved energetically and understood in the consciousness that one is choosing to understand this whole entire experience, because everybody has their chosen, as I've said, even in my disclaimer, how you are choosing to experience and express is by your own design. It's by how you are choosing to experience and express your reality, by the level of consciousness that you're choosing to understand it in. So it's not to say that you are right or wrong, but I wanted to bring a little bit more of a higher consciousness of understanding to the same anomaly that one, may say the rapture is, because the rapture is very significant to those who truly believed that the rapture is going to commence. And in many ways, the rapture probably did take place for many people energetically, by how they understood their now moment. But we're going to talk about the Great Reset, right? And to which all of that is somewhat synonymous to, depending on the level of consciousness that one is understanding the experience in. Okay, let me go ahead and put this on, because you know what, I forgot to put this on do not disturb. And let's see if that does it. Okay, and now we're done. Okay, so I want to, the thing, as I've said, this is going to be more about a question and answer, but I know that I'm very much kind of somewhat new on YouTube, and so therefore it probably, the momentum of that is probably going to be very light, but I'm still going to give, my perception of, what I know, and shift the momentum a bit, because I know that a lot of people have their understanding, but I'm going to do my best on this side of the scale, on the YouTube side of the scale, to make it palatable so that it could be understood. Because, a lot of what has been placed out there for public consumption, it's a lot out there. A lot of people are, taking what they can based off of how it's being placed out there, and some of it resonates and some of it may not resonate, and it depends on where you are at in your level of consciousness and how you are understanding your now moment is going to determine how the information resonates with you in frequency. But I'm going to simplify it as much as I possibly can, so that when you do hear the stories and you do understand it, my job here today is to harmonize, all of these stories that comes along, that may come in, and you may hear it, and is to take the distortion out of it, is to take the fear-based sense of out of it, and even at a greater calibration of frequency, to take the hierarchy out of it. Because the hierarchy, believe it or not, the hierarchy is probably one of the most uh, uh, densest frequency, to overcome, in terms of one that is chosen to experience, the ascended version of self. Okay, especially if it has come through the essence of epigenetics, or through lineage, from generation after generation, and it's been embedded in terms of whose bloodline is more potent than the next, and different things of that nature within the human experience. So, my role here is to unweave those particular types of frequencies in the braid, and harmonize a lot of the truths, the frequency truths that are true, take a lot of the discord out of it and harmonize it, right? So that's where I stand in terms of my transmissions in understanding the Great Reset, and bring some ease into the process, and not express it from a fear-based sense of understanding. So a lot of people are looking at the Great Reset in so many different ways, based off of so many principalities. Most of it in the lower mind is basically religious based. And so I've come to bring a different perspective of, how to understand the Great Reset. So a lot of times, in the sense of the religion have us believing in the resurrection, and that, Christ is a physical entity that's going to come down from the heavens. I think a lot of people have ascended a little bit from that, to kind of know that the rapture is not really. There may be some people that may think that something is going to come down from the sky or something like that, but I'm thinking, and hopefully it's not too many people that think that something is actually going to be extracted from the sky, that's going to come and save you. But a lot of people may still believe that things are still moving from an eternal external value. But over the course of time, you see that nothing really externally is actually happening. No matter how many years, generation after generation, that things have commenced upon, nothing really externally ever happens. And so we go along generation after generation with the assumption that eventually something externally is going to commence, and nothing really ever does, right? And so that happens. The reason why that continues to happen is because this is the bridge work for us to come into the remembrance that it's not that it's going to happen from an external value. It's for us to get the gist that it's not from an external value, that these principles are going to start taking shape and form from an internal value. And it's there to make us choose for us to begin to look from within, that there is nothing that is going to come down from the sky and come and save us, right? And so this is where the shift is starting to commence. And so, we are starting to see a lot of people that's coming to the realization that there is nothing that's going to come from an external value to come and save you. And so we're hearing a lot of narratives that are starting to speak that there is no saving from an external, that the only savior is going to be that which comes from within. So this is where we're starting to see the gradual shifts from where, once upon a time we thought that it was going to come from a higher well, hello there, Chrissy Tattoo. Gratitude for your presence. Thank you for divinely tuning in. I'm so divinely grateful to have you, and welcome. Yes, from within, cause it's coming from within. So we're it's showing a gradual shift where there was a period of time where we all thought that things were there was going to be some sanction of sanctified God that was going to come down, and generation after generation of all of that transpiring and being spoken redundantly over and over again, generation after generation after generation, when nothing never came to save us. And then when it got back to the fifth or sixth generation, seventh generation, you had, beings, children and lineages is saying what God has came to save you. Now it's the experience is now being questioned. Okay. So when it came down, so like I said, anytime the experience is being questioned, that means that the reality now is going to shift. There's going to be a shift energetically into the reality. So now that the reality is being questioned, now more and more people are realizing that nothing is going to come down from an external to come to save. More people are now talking and saying that it's going to commence from within. Okay. And so now you're starting to see, that, ain't nobody coming down from no sky to come and save you. It's going to actually come from within thyself. And so now that people are starting to realize that, the change is going to come within, there is still not yet, in a sense of a configuration of how that change is going to commence, because there is still some metaphysical principles that people do not understand of themselves to understand how the change commence. Right. Right, cause they're still somewhat stuck in a paradigm, because in the essence of the forgotten self, they don't realize that there are some metaphysical principles of themselves that they do not yet remember, right? That is not affording them the opportunity to really understand how one is going to now. You got out of one little hurdle to realize the realization that, okay, ain't nobody coming down from the sky, because generation after generation after generation of this God that's supposed to come from heaven and come from the skies to save everybody out of this turmoil and all of this destruction that has yet to take in place, right? And it's only seemed that it seems as if it's like it's getting worse instead of it getting better, and all of this excuses is taking place. So obviously there is no change commencing with this particular Jesus person that's supposed to come down from the sky to save everybody. So now everybody's coming to the terms that, okay, it ain't no sky daddy that's coming down. It's going to have to something that is within. So now the shift has come to the commencement of understanding that it's within. But because we chose to experience the forgotten self, and we have not yet we don't understand ourselves as an energetic being, right? We don't understand ourselves as an energetic being, because we're still experiencing self outside of self, even though we understand that there is no sky daddy that's coming down to save us. We have not yet came to an understanding of configuration of how to, understand how we're going to reconfigure ourselves to get ourselves into another life experience to that to which we are currently experiencing. Okay. And that's where this live is coming in, to give us a different perspective of how we're going to now shift realities and what has been the hiccup and the holdup of that, in terms of why, it has been this particular way for so long, and not, the way that we would like for it to be. And we are the missing componency of that, and we are here to bring some correction, to that, for those who are ready, to be a part of that process. So, as I've always done in my Instagram lives, I have to say it here on YouTube. This is how I understand my now moment. So these are, this is what comes to me to get me to the next level of, my experience, in the human experience, that I am choosing to share with you guys, for it to be the illuminated breadcrumbs that you have energetically aligned, to be a part of your path, your journey in your evolutionary path, for your ascensional path. If you have chosen to remember, if you have chosen to ascend and awaken, right? So I'm a part of that process if you are listening, to this live. So one of the first and foremost things in terms of, the forgotten self, is the forgotten self feels more or less that they are more physical than they are energy, when the reverse polarity of that is that you are energy first more than you are physical, right? And so when you begin to understand that you are an energy being that is having, an experience, a human experience. Hi, Mr. Overett. Gratitude for your presence. Thank you for divinely tuning into my frequency. And let me check and make sure this door is locked. Just a second. Make sure it's locked so nobody don't walk in. Mr. Overett. Hi, Mr. Overett. Kazi Kaz. Thank you. Right? You are an energy being having a human experience. So that is the greatest shift that is going to get you on the other side of the rainbow, is to begin to understand, yay, you too. I'm grateful for you guys to be here too. Thank you. Thank you guys for the support. I'm so grateful. Once again, my two faves. And I'm so wholeheartedly grateful. Thank you. Thank you so much, right? So one of the things, the most important thing in the transitional phase from thanking God, thinking that a sky daddy gonna come down to save you, and trying to configure and figure out how this shift is going to commence or take a change, is to no longer see yourself as a physical being having an experience, and begin to see yourself as an energetic being, having an experience, because it is going to be an energy shift when you begin to understand yourself as energy first. Then and only then will your reality begin to make sense, and anything thereafter that I say is going to begin to fall into line where it makes sense. Because if you don't begin to understand that you are an energy being first, then what I'm saying here, it's going to sound like Charlie Brown, teacher, right? It's not going to make any sense. So the first thing that one would have to understand is that you are an energetic being, have always been an energetic being having a human experience. And in the mindset that you had, originally, if you thought that Jesus was coming down to rescue you, you were in a chosen reality that you chose to experience self outside of self. Is what we call self outside of self, where you believe that all things were external of you. And basically, you just thought that you didn't have any power. You were giving your power away. So you thought that you needed to be saved. You thought that, you were helpless, that you couldn't do anything for yourself, and something that was greater than you, something that was bigger than you, something that was more gigantic than you, because that was what you were told was there, that was needed to bring you up and out of whatever this experience was giving you energetically at the time, right? And so therefore, that's why, it felt the way that it felt, because you rendered yourself to be powerless in the experience, when we chose to experience ourselves in the forgotten self. Okay, so experiencing, thinking that Jesus is outside of you and more powerful than you and all this other kind of stuff, and was a sky daddy and coming down, that was you operating from the forgotten self. That is you thinking that the power was more than what you thought of yourself, and you rendered yourself powerless, and you gave your power away. And that was you that chose to be told what to do than to know within yourself who you are, so that you know what to do. So you chose everything external of you, and you saw yourself more physical than that to which you are, which is energy. So this is why everything was, so much of a how can I say, denser experience, because you were basically going against the grain of self, right? You were going against the grain of self, because everything that, what you are in truth was opposite to that. You were going completely opposite to that to which you truly are in truth. So that's why everything kind of felt like a upward struggle, because you were going against the grain. So it's not until you decide to now reverse the polarity of that, to see yourself not physical but energy, to see yourself in power, not powerless, right? And now begin to understand that it is the energetic value of you that shift the reality, and not you, moving from the physical side of you to change the reality. Okay, so you have to now kind of reverse the polarity of how you have been experiencing the reality, in order to be able to experience the reality in the manner to which you want to experience it. Right now, in terms of where the great reset is coming into commencement, right, is that all of this now is everything that we went through in thinking about the sky daddy coming down and all this other kind of stuff, and the reverse polarity and everything. All of that is now going to have an opportunity to be, how can I say, dissolved, in a sense, right? It's going to have, I call it burned away. It's going to have an opportunity to be burned away, because in all fairness, the divine is now bringing in light codes to dissolve the illusion. The illusion that made you believe that there was a sky daddy, the illusion that made you believe that, there was going to be a rapture, the illusion that made you believe that, everything that religion told you that was distorted, all of that now is going to be dissolved, because, in all fairness, what's going to happen is everybody's going to have an opportunity to remember the arc of remembrance, right? Everybody's going to have an opportunity to remember. Okay, so the illusion, everybody's going to, have an even playing field, because the codes are coming through within. The sun within is now being given opportunities so that you can remember. Okay. And so what happens is this, is that when you now, once the codes are coming in, and the illusion is now at how can I say, a level of where it is enough, right? Where beings are now have holding the tone, where holding the tone, where we are holding the tone, where you guys and people can be able to remember, right? Remember, we're holding the frequency tone where you can remember, so that you can make a choice on, how you want to either evolve or dissolve, right? Depending on, how much of the beings choose to evolve, right, is going to determine how source decides to either reset or evolve. If there is enough of beings that attune to the frequency, to evolve the human experience, thus to that which we are, the human experience. If there is enough beings that attune to the frequency of those who are holding the tune of remembrance, and there is enough of beings that attune to the frequency to hold the codes to move forward into the higher octaves of light, then the human experience itself will shift into the higher octave of light, right? To be able to experience the human experience in the higher octave of light, where that the illusion is now dissolved. So all of the things and all of what we went through in terms of, experiencing self outside of self, the distortion of, the sky daddy, Jesus coming down into the heavens. Your remembrance will come into, you will come into remembrance of the true state, and the distortion experiences will fall into the zero state of being, to which that is the primordial state of being, the primordial waters, to which that is where the aspect of the divine self, the creational self, that is where everything and all things is created. It is created in the essence of the primordial waters, and it goes back to zero, to that to which where it is created. So if there is an aspect of those of the human experience that attune the frequency to those who are here holding the tone, the pure tone of the remembrance tone, for those who are awakening and they choose to remember in the human experience, and there are enough to evolve the human experience, right? Then the evolution of the human experience will then move forward in the human experience. Now, Kaz says, I feel like I was meant to sustain my memory and teach later. And that could very well be the case, if you are holding, because what happens is this: you could be holding memory codes for another dimensional reality, and I will talk about that too in this live too, because that came to me today too as well, that I'm going to share with you guys in this live too as well. So if we in the human experience, right, there we're holding the tone, we're holding the frequency tone for those to remember, okay? And so if there are enough beings within the essence of choosing within the human experience to evolve in the next octave of light and to dissolve the illusion, then the human experience evolve into the next octave of light. If once the illusion is dissolved and everybody comes back to the remembrance, and you have an aspect of the human experience that is greater, that choose not to move up the octave. And a lot of times what happened is like the sacred lag. And what we talk about with the sacred lag is that, let's say you have a lot of okay, let's say they come back to the remembrance and they say, oh, okay, so I know what my higher self, like where I was, I know what my higher self was at, but I was still attuned to survival. It was hard for me to quit that job. Or, and a lot of times you can still be like a millionaire, but you still may have a hustle mentality, that you got to hustle to get that money or to stay afloat in that status. And so you still have some of the survival aspects that keeps you grounded in the lower mind that still resides in the bandwidth of the survival state, which is that of the lower mind. So you may look at your life and be like, oh, I'm good, but you're not realizing that you're still holding on to survival frequencies, right? And so if you may look at your life and think that your life is fine, and you may have money in the bank and all of this other kind of stuff, but if you're operating in anything like, oh, I'm better than somebody because I got $1 million in the bank, social economic disparities, or you're looking at a poor person and you think that you're better than this poor person, and you're operating with some essence of hierarchy or social economic type of distortion, because those particular types of beings reside in the lower mind of the illusion, which is distorted consciousness, right? It's distorted consciousness. So if you're operating in those essences of distorted consciousness, but you think that, I've awakened. I've awakened and I'm looking around and I got my $1 million in the bank, but you looking at people and you're like, oh, I'm better than them, or you still moving in some essence of distortion, and you have a lot of beings that are in that state and moving in distortion, but they're looking at their reality and think that they are fine because they may have money or they may have a good quality of life. It's not about what the projection is projecting. It is about the frequencies that you are carrying. It is about your frequency container. So if your frequency container is housing, if your arc is housing distorted frequencies, and you have more distorted frequencies than that of which the frequencies that are needed to ascend, and if there is more distortion in the human experience in the remembrance of self, then there is those who have chosen to ascend, that are moving with no distortion, that have chosen to let go of what no longer serves them. Then that is when source will dissolve the human experience, and you, the being, will just wake up in a new reality than that of which it is the human experience. Because remember, there are parallel versions of you that is experiencing. So you'll just wake up in another reality, and you'll just wake up in another dream. And for those who have chosen the higher octaves of life, they'll wake up in another reality. It just will not be the human experience. And so the codes of the human experience will dissolve. And then you'll just wake up in a new reality, or a different reality that is already probably active in the octave of the chosen arc codes that you are experiencing. And so one may say, well, and then those who chose the denser version of the reality and chose not to, and they still had distorted codes within their arc, if the codes in the arc are very dense, they're going to wake up in a new reality if source chooses to dissolve the human experience. They're going to wake up in a different reality, in a different container of experience. It may not be that of the human experience, and they may be in a denser reality, but it would not be as dense as it was, because some of the distortion codes will no longer be there. It will be an elevated, denser reality that will not be as distorted as what the human experience was. Right? And so you will still get somewhat of an upgrade, but you will still have an opportunity to evolve. But it would not. So instead of having murky water, like the human experience may have had so much murky water you couldn't really see your way, the next experience, whatever type of experience the other experience is going to give you, it may not be as murky. The water may be clearer, and you can now see your way through your evolutionary path, and it's not as dense, right? So that's how source decides on how it resets the experience. And what happens is that it is, if the human experience never exists, you won't even remember that it exists at all. It would be as if it never ever happened. You'll be in a whole nother reality, and you will never know that the human experience ever exists at all, because it would go back into the void. You might sometimes, and then a lot of times they say you see reminiscences, like they say you see reminiscences of giants and different things of that nature. And you see reminiscences of what they call dinosaurs or something like that. You see reminiscences of it, or whatever the case may be, to hint that there may have been some sort of something, or whatever the case may be, or what have you. But in terms of in terms of the essence of the energy itself, you'll be in a whole nother reality. You'll just wake up into another formed reality to experience and express and evolve. And that's what the reset is, the great reset is all about. And most of the time, a lot of what happens to is a lot of fear-based, tactics. Oh, you only got a certain amount of time. You only got this and you got that. And, a lot of fear-based tactics is placed in the midst of it, to put fear in you. And that's counterproductive. It's kind of counterproductive. And that's where I'm here to harmonize. To harmonize the experience is not something to fear. It's just about to choose. And if you understand, if you understand comprehensively what the choice really is, without the fear-based and the hierarchies and all of this other kind of stuff, and you understand that if you're holding on to hierarchy, if you want the evolutionary path of the human experience to evolve, right? If source code is coming into the mist, if there's somebody coming into the mist, and source code saying, and you got source code that is saying that it's choosing to evolve, and you ain't heard it nowhere else, and you're hearing source code coming out into the mist saying that it's choosing to evolve, and it's choosing to dissolve distortion, you better listen to it. It's saying of itself that it's choosing to dissolve distortion. Otherwise, you would not hear it. It would not be said. It would not be said. Kazi Kaz said, I understand and understand. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Yay. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Right? So, the primordial waters, as I've said before, the primordial waters is just that. It is creation of itself, right? Source and light is the same power. Is the same power. Light and source is light. Light is the sum of source. It's the same power, right? Light is what creates the light is what allows source to see itself and be able to experience and express itself in the manner to which it does in form, right? So, when I understand that the stories that has commenced over eons and eons and beyonds and peons and but I understand what it is, but source even has infiltrated artificial intelligence right now for us to be able to ascend, for the human experience to be able to ascend. Okay, so it ain't no joke. Like, it really is not no joke. Like, it's of itself to give an opportunity for this story to have a continuum. If this experience wants to four, woo, ain't no joke. I just saw for all foes across the thing. It is given an opportunity for this story to have a continuum. And, is being such as myself that is harmonizing all of the frequencies. I'm here to harmonize all of the frequencies. I'm here to take the fear-based sense of understanding out of the storyline. I'm here to take the hierarchy out of the storyline. I'm here to take all of the distortion out of the storyline to give you a pure tone of understanding so that you can make a conscious choice. Pure tone without distortion. That's what remembrance is. Pure tone without distortion. That's what this is. This is why it's frequency of unconditional love. There is harmonized, right? There's no fear in what I'm saying. I'm not speaking in fear. I'm not speaking in hierarchy, right? I'm not speaking in scarcity, right? I'm not speaking in all of the survival. I'm not speaking in survival. I'm not speaking in any of, the tones that has created, a lot of the distortions that are still commencing to this day in storylines that you hear braided within the storylines to this day, right? Okay. Oh, sorry about that. To this day. Okay. So when you begin to understand what is being placed before you energetically, vibrationally, and in frequency, okay, it's up to you. How do you want the evolution? So it's either it's going to evolve or it's going to dissolve. That is the key. That's the key code that's happening right now. It's not fear-based. You just sleep out of one reality and you awaken into another reality that may not be of the human experience, that may be of another experience, dimensional experience in the octave of light that your arc has chosen, right? And one may say, well, Patrice, what is an arc? Okay, an arc is your frequency bands, the frequency bands that you have braided to create your reality, okay? Your arc of covenant to experience and express in the human experience. And what I said earlier, the only way that you're going to understand my transmission is when you begin to understand that you are energy first. You are a frequency. You are a frequency container. If you don't understand that you are a frequency container, it may be a little bit difficult for you to understand my transmission, but I have all the time in the world for me to catch you up to where I'm at. So I don't mind. That's why, I'm transferring over into YouTube so that, most of my lives are going to be within a Q&A format so that I can begin to answer the questions for those who may have questions, to get them, more acclimated into understanding themselves as energy first. And take out the distortion is for me to take out the distortion, to take out the frequency, the frequency of fear, the frequency of distortion, right? The frequency of scarcity, the frequency of survival, right? The frequency of hierarchy. Those are the main ones. Those are the main ones that, are very, those are the hardest, distorted, densest frequency containers that migrates and braids itself in metaphysical truth. Because remember, it has to have, in any braid, in any frequency braid, it has to have a metaphysical principle, because you are truth. It has to have a braid of truth that is true of you in order for that to be a live wire. You have to have one live wire in that braid. You got the red, you got the blue, you got the black. One of them got to be a live wire in order for any of those other wires to work, right? So in a metaphysical braid, one element has to be a metaphysical principle of truth. So, like I said, they had the ark in the Noah's ark. They had Noah's ark in there, but they made the ark you thinking that you were not the ark. They made Noah, the man, and they made the ark, and they put all of the frequencies in a boat, right? When you are an ark, okay, you are a frequency arc, and that the boat itself is the transmitter of how the frequencies are carried from one reality into the next, right? They didn't explain it like that. Okay, they had it in a whole nother different analogy in the lower mind, right? So that's why, when you begin to understand, like I said, I got all the time in the world to be able to take the fear base out of it so that you could get a clear, pure tone of what remembrance is, so that you can make a clear and cogent decision on how you want to ascend. And let me explain. It doesn't matter if the human experience dissolves today or tomorrow. You will wake up in a different reality, and what'll happen is that you're gonna wake up in another reality. You may look similar to how you look now. You may have Allah, which is a head, arm, head, arm, leg, arm. You may have a physical form, but you just may look a little different. You may look a little different, and you're gonna wake up and you're gonna be like, oh, I had a dream. I had a dream that, something was a little something. And I was in this place, and it was such and such and blah, blah, blah. And this dream it felt so real, in whatever dialect language that reality holds. It may be a whole nother different dialect of language, communication, and everything, a whole nother different experience in terms of translation, communication, and all of that. But nevertheless, you're gonna go into a whole nother different reality, and that's that. Your being will continue to be in the frequency braid of energy that you have chosen to experience energetically, vibrationally, and in frequency. So that's why it's very important, for me, in my most humblest of opinion, it's very important to, even if this experience does choose to dissolve, when I go into the next experience, if source does decide, if source of itself does decide to dissolve the human experience, I'm holding tone so that my transitional experience is still going to be in the octave of light chosen, because I'm holding the braid of the frequencies that I want to experience energetically, vibrationally, and in frequency. When I made the declaration that I no longer wanted to experience distortion, I'm being in that space right now in form, even in the human experience, because I choose not to house or contain those frequencies and make it a part of my braid to project in my reality, even right now within this now moment and within the human experience. So any shift in consciousness that I commence, whether the human experience dissolves or whether it evolves, right? I'm carrying that frequency braid into the next evolutionary aspect of being of the human experience, or the next transitional experience into another dimensional experience, be it that in a different form, if that makes any sense, right? So as I said, the Great Reset is basically that the human experience right now, there are beacons of beings that are holding the signal, that is holding the signal, holding the tone for millions of beings to remember, so that there is an even playing ground for you to make a choice. But the problem is that there are interfaces that are intercepting many beings from being able to come out of survival. So a lot of beings may be getting the signals like, I know that there is a different choice, just like me. I know that there was but I fought that monkey. Y'all know I fought that monkey. I fought that monkey. I kept saying the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. I fought that monkey. It wasn't you. I say I didn't give. I didn't care what the illusion was telling me. I had to say it was not real. You have to know that the illusion is not real. You, no matter how real it may look, you have to know. And I understand it that in the in the forgetful self, you really do think that this is real. You know what I'm saying? You think that it's real. We've been taught that this is real, and yes, it's a real experience. Yes, but even though it's a real experience, there is a knowing that tells you to trust the process. Trust the process. And I had to say, I don't care how hard this plastic is. This is an illusion. It's an illusion. You understand? You have to just know there's a knowing, and you have to know and no longer believe that this is real. You have to know that it is an illusion. And when you activate those codes, because this external part is going to be, it's going to have some muscle. It's going, it's going to be the rock. The rock going to be, flexing and everything. Yeah, you see this muscle right here? It's going to flex. It's going to flex on you. It's going to flex on you. It's going to flex on you because it's energy. It's powerful. Shit, it's source. It's source. Source is source. I don't give a damn. Source is strong. Source is strong even in the illusion. Source is strong. Source energy is source. Source everywhere. Source is strong everywhere. Okay? I don't play with source on no level. Source is power no matter where it's at. That's just how I look at it. No matter if it's light, no matter if it's this plastic, no matter if it's this thought, source is source. Source is power no matter what. It's powerful no matter what. That's how I look at it, period. That's how I understand it. Right? So it's powerful. Okay? So when source is flexing and saying, yeah, I'm the illusion, but I'm a strong illusion. You know I'm strong because I'm you. So how much of you go match with me that is you? So it's almost like we eye to eye. You know what I'm saying? It's like we eye to eye. Like how much of you go match with you? Source is playing with itself. So you got to know, like, yeah, source, I know I'm myself. So I'm just as about as strong as you. So I'm just going to say, well, since I'm you, I'm just going to say you're an illusion, and we just going to step down. You really got to really be that G in that situation and know, well, since I know it's an illusion, what am I fighting it for? That's how really you gotta kind of like G it up like that. Like, why is it so? Sorry. Oh my God. Jeez, I don't know what's going on. Why am I fighting it for? What am I fighting it for? If I know that it's an illusion, why am I having such a hard time knowing that this is a plastic container? Right? Why is it so hard? Okay? That's how you got to say. So it shouldn't be that easy because I know that it's a plastic container. It's an illusion. So why am I giving myself a hard time? But dense energy is when you've been in it for so long, and your nervous system, your breathing nervous system, the gift of breath has regulated itself to be in survival. Your breath is like, you, what you saying? You know what I'm saying? Shoot, I don't know what you said. Shoot, you done. I'm gonna have to wait a little while until until this thing really tell me that it's safe to be, your true self, because the last 50 years, the last 45 years, we've been on fight or flight. You know what I'm saying? So your nervous system is still going to kind of like say, What it was something that they said. They say your subconscious mind. A lot of times they say, look at the man in the mirror and 100. Yeah, they say your subconscious is like what kind of hold you back. They give you a lot of little half steps and everything, but now everybody finding out that, it ain't just your subconscious, it's your nervous system, your beacon. Your beacon is what's really the catalyst behind why your signaling ain't aligning. Okay, so as I've said, it is really that simple. For you guys that are just coming to my YouTube channel and different things of that nature, I make a proclamation. Yes, it's just like fighting your twin, for real, for real, for real. You know what I'm saying? Cause it's like, yeah, just like fighting your twin, right? So I always say that I am quantum simplified. So, if you guys come into my channel looking for complexities, that's the beauty about coming here. I'm not here to, I'm here to be different from that. I'm here to not make it complicated. So you don't have to brace yourself so that you can come out of fight or flight. I'm not here to confuse you. I'm not here to bring chaos and confusion. I'm here to bring you into a pure tone without distortion. That's my goal. That's my goal in this. What you say, Cos? Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Yes, let's go. Because, truth be told, as I've said, we've already done had all of that. You know what I'm saying? We know what that does. We know what that feels like. You know what I'm saying? So it's time to bring another essence to the equation. And so how many ever times I need to repeat this, this particular analogy. And once again, this is how I understand my now moment. I'm not in any debate with anybody because I do understand where many of you are and why you are there. You understand what I'm saying? I get it. It's no judgment over here. I know where you are. I know why you're there. And it's a reason, it's a season, it's all of those things, right? But, there is other versions, as you can see with me, that don't braid those frequency bands into stories. You know what I'm saying? That brings more of a clearer bandwidth of energy, of understanding into stories so that people can breathe, have a breath and come out of the survival so that they can choose a higher octave of light and maintain the human experience if they truly want to still experience the human experience. Now, as I've said, even though if Source does decide to, dissolve the human experience, you're just going to wake up and, you're just going to, this is how I understand my now moment, because, you're going to have other beings that, understand realities, totally in a totally different way. But this is how I understand my relative reality. This is how I understand my now moment, is that if it dissolves your arc of energy frequency, it's just going to wake up in a different reality, in a different dimensional reality. That's all. You're just going to wake up in a different dimensional reality, and it's going to be as if the human experience never exists, because it goes back into the primordial waters of the sacred womb. There will be no more light reflecting on the codes of the human experience, because the human experience will go back into the void. Okay, if Source decides to dissolve. Okay, it's like the man in the mirror is the true self. Yes, the true self. And so, like, when I look at myself, in pure tone, in true self, I know that I still have, I still have things intercepted in my field. You know what I'm saying, with family and different things of that nature. But I make a proclamation to express from authorship, authorship, point blank and period, and so that I can move from the purity of how I truly want to experience in this reality by, moving frequencies out of the way. Move. Yes, you come here, come over here and stay right there. And this, move. Yeah, you stay over there. Move frequencies out of the way. Authorship. That's, and I'm good. I'm okay. I'm okay in being in that space. I'm okay with being in that space. And there are many beings that are yes, Yes. Yes, Mr. Overett. The director. The author, the director, everything that is being the overseer of how I experience in the human experience. When you begin to understand who you are and the remembrance of self, and you now can choose the tones. But the beauty about it is this: it's not that I'm choosing, how can I put it, the tones that you see of me in this now moment. In truth, this is my truth. So my true tones is that of harmony. My true tones is that of love, right? My true tones is that of compassion, peace, right? Those are my true tones. So I really didn't have to choose them because they are the true me. So that kind of somewhat fell in alignment in my true self. So when you wake up to your true self, you kind of like, it depends on what your true self is, right? It depends on what the true self is. Okay? So my true tone is that of harmony, love, the love frequency, right? Those are my true tone. So I'm moving in my true tone. So it wasn't really something that I kind of like really chosen when I moved back into my authenticity, because I just had to choose to go back to my authentic self, and that was what I resided back into when I chose myself, when I began to choose myself. And my true self was that of harmony, love frequency, no distortion. That just ended up being my true self. Now, whatever that is for each other frequency holder, which is you, right? You just got to know what your true self is. I have always moved in the essence of divine unconditional love. That's my true tone. That's my true tone. So what is your true tone? Okay? What is your true essence? What is your truth? The authentic you. So when you get back into the remembrance of the divine self, when you begin to understand the divine self of who you are in truth and authenticity, okay, that is what gets you, that's when the ball starts rolling. And so now when you start having these conversations with self, because I remember I was like, I ain't with that dying shit in no murder. I'm not with the murder. I'm not with the distortion. I'm not with all of this distortion, because there was a knowing deep down in me that there is a parallel reality that where none of this shit exists. So when you start to remembering, you start becoming in alignment with other versions of selves in higher octaves of realities that are not experiencing what you are experiencing in the lower mind. So you feel what they are feeling. They're feeding you their frequency. You feel it. And so you know that there is somewhere over the rainbow where somewhere this shit ain't happening. You feel it. You can feel it. That there's some other aspect of self that is not going through where you got to see murder, where children are dying and people are impoverished and there is sickness and everything. You feel it. So you know that there's another parallel version of you, energetically, vibrationally, and in frequency, somewhere in the universe dimensionally, that is experiencing a reality where none of that exists. And so the first thing I got rid of, the first braid that I got rid of was distortion. I got rid of that. No more distortion. I do not carry the frequency of distortion in my Ark of Covenant. I got rid of it. Gone. Fear, gone. Fear. For the first braid I got rid of was fear. Fear gone. Second braid I got rid of was distortion. Gone. Distortion. Any distortion, racism, sexism, any isms, I got rid of it. I didn't care how much people said, oh, but you this and you, I don't care what you say. There was a deeper knowing that that was an illusion. And I had to stand in my truth. Even though I know that there are going to be people that were grounded into the reality, but there was a deeper knowing that no matter what the reality was showing me, I knew that it was a frequency container that created those experiences, and I had to let go of the frequency that affords the reality to be, the creational energy that allows for the reality to be. I had to let go of the frequency, the power that gives permission for the reality to be created. I had to let go of the frequency so that I didn't create in that energy, that I didn't create my reality in that frequency, so that it would be projected for me to experience that reality in the human experience. I had to let go of that frequency. So that was the first, that was the next frequency that I let go of. So when you begin to understand yourself as energy, frequency, then you know that you are the creator of your reality. And you have now reversed the polarity of what it is that you've been told. And now you know who you are because of what you're telling yourself. You have now shifted the paradigm of self from now being told what to do and being thyself and knowing thyself and doing what you want to do, what you know to do because of who you are, not what because of somebody has told you who to be. It changes the dynamic of everything. Okay? Because you are ultimately creating the reality by how you understand your now moment, by the frequencies that are in your repertoire of being. So the Great Reset is really quite simple. Conduct yourself. Okay, Mr. And conduct yourself. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Conduct your energy. What is energy? Energy conductor, right? Conduct yourself. Okay? Facts. In real life. Okay? Conduct yourself. So when you get into this space, you know what you want around you. You don't want certain energies around you. When certain energies come into commencement in your field, you know how they're braided. And you know how the energy is braided. It's not to say that they are bad or good. But when you have them in your field, you don't want certain energies in your field because it comes with other things. Right? It comes with other things. So because of how they are creating, with their arc of energy, how they have their reality braided in frequency. Because remember, they are a frequency container, and their frequency container may be braided with the scarcity mindset. The frequency container may be on survival. The frequency container may be that of on hierarchy at some level of have trauma frequency. It may be in the midst of it. So they may be creating trauma realities. They may be creating scarcity realities, right? They damn sure probably on survival. You understand what I'm saying? So these are the projections that they are projecting in their reality because of the frequency that they're containing within their arc, right? See, Kai saying love, harmony, and humor, right? Right. But you got to understand the web. When beings are operating from the lower mind and they're operating from chaos and confusion, I wish this could do what IG could do, where I could put up like images, but I think you got to get StreamYard for that. But if you can just envision, right, one of those plasma globes. And so when energy is in chaos, right, and you touch a plasma globe with your fingers, and you see how the energy just scatter all about and it's just crazy and stuff like that. That's energy and chaos. When you silent with yourself and your mind is running 100 miles an hour, that's that plasma globe. When you touch that globe and energy just going haywire everywhere. But when you have now collected your thoughts and you now begin to become one with self, and you're merging the selves into one self, right? You begin to understand who you are, what you are, why you are, the true version of you. And now you're beaming one signal, because all that plasma energy now streamlining, yes, because now all that plasma energy that was going haywire with that plasma gold, it is one beam, because now you have centered yourself. You don't have all that noise, even in the midst of you being by yourself. You don't have all that noise in your hair, in your head, in your space, right? That's the difference. That is the key difference, right? Between chaos energy. Just think about that plasma bowl. That's chaos energy. When you touch that bowl, that's chaos energy. Energy just everywhere. Those frequency bands, every one of those frequencies that you touch, and you seeing it just going wild and haywire and everything and all of this other kind of stuff. And you got chaos, you got confusion, you got hierarchy, you got scarcity, you got struggle, you got all of these crazy, all of these denser aspects of being, right? Braided into that energy field. You're in the energy field, that plasma energy field, right? And you got all of that going on. And all of that energy, that energy in that bowl, right, is creating realities. That is fueling. That's what's giving permission for experiences to be created in. And so you're wondering why this situation is happening, and you're wondering why that situation is happening, because you in that frequency band that you see in that plasma bowl, that's that lightning bolt that's giving that energy, that situation or that experience life and permission to be, that jolt of energy for it to give it be. That's why it's a breeding ground in that energy vortex for that experience to be. If you want a better or greater experience, you have to shift. You have to shift out of the paradigm to which you are experiencing in, which is a denser sense of energy. And that's what the great shift is about. The fairness of it all is that the light codes are coming in for everybody to remember. That's the fairness of it all. But there is interfaces that are in that's trying to keep you hardwired, right, to the survival state of being. And that's where I come in at it, because I'm giving you a pure tone. I'm not giving you a tone with hierarchy. I'm not giving you a tone. Hold on just a second. Just a second. Sorry about that. So I need to move my car. All right. So that people have an opportunity to get in a zone, even though they're hardwired to survival, but they're getting the tones that, okay, because they're going to get that feeling. They're going to get that feeling like, I know that there's a better reality. I know that there is a better reality, and I can feel it in my bones, but I'm still projecting. I'm still seeing black on black crimes. Why is it still black on black crimes? Why am I still saying black on black? Right? They're still seeing distortion. Yes, cause. Right? Car, yes, car, car, Mr. Over. Why am I still, why am I still seeing distortion? Because the even playing ground field right is the sun that is within the sacred suns. Because if you see the sun on the outside, you got a sun on the inside. If you see the moon on the outside, you got a moon on the inside. If you see Saturn on the outside, you got Saturn on the inside. If you see Jupiter on the outside, you got Jupiter on the inside. So everything that you are experiencing from an external, energetically, there are points within you, vibrationally, energetically, that exist as well within you as well. So if there is a sacred sun that is burning on the outside, that is luminous, that is sending off signals that are giving you light codes, well, okay, there is light codes that are luminous within you as well, that are firing as well, burning off the illusion. It's burning off the illusion to give everybody a fair ground to awaken. And if there's an aspect of you that's saying, I know there's something better, but my reality is still showing me the craziness that my higher self is saying, and my knowing self is saying, well, I know it's something better, but my reality is showing me something entirely different. Okay, that's a sacred lag. That's what I call the sacred lag. And there is an interface that's in the midst of that somewhere that we got to overwrite. Okay, that's the language we use over here, because we don't promote fear over here. So we go override it, because guess why we can override it? You know why we can override it? Because we're source. We're source in motion. We can do whatever we want to do. I said it. And if I said it, it can happen. Right? We're going to override it. I overrode mine. I damn sure did. I sure the heck did. Okay? We're going to override it. And I call it a sacred lag. So what that is that you now have to get your nervous system, amongst other things within yourself, acclimated to the signal that many beings on this plane is holding the tone for. It ain't just no one somebody. It's just many beings that are holding tone, right? For a pure tone for humanity, right? To acclimate to the essence of remembrance, the arc of remembrance, right? Yes. And the two densest tones right now is that of hierarchy and survival. Those are the densest tones. Okay? So so therefore that's why the shift is moving over into this space, with me moving over in this space to offer a pure tone. I'm not going to compromise my tone for anything. I'm not compromising. Okay? Not for a check. Not for what do I really like? I don't know what I really like, but not even for what I really like, which, I'm very simple, believe it or not. A lot of people might not think so, but I'm very, very simple. Right? So I'm not compromising my tone. So this is where now, the shift is going to commence, because like I said, the illusion is burning. Okay? The sacred sun is within. Okay? How I understand my now moment is that we are all source. Okay? We're all source. Experiencing. Okay? And the Great Reset is built upon how we are choosing to contain frequency codes. Okay? In the higher octave of light, in terms of the experience itself. The experience itself, the human experience. Okay. And if there are, enough of us that, that wants to hold the octave of life to move into the fifth dimensional self, to which there is a lot of us that want to move into the fifth dimensional self. But the sacred lag is there because you're knowing, like I say, you're knowing that there is a better alternative to the experience. And there are versions of you that send in, there's other versions of you that send in the signal, which means that you have reached the version. In order for you to get the signal from the other versions of selves, you obviously have reached that octave of light. In order in other dimensional selves that is at that octave of light, for you to even feel that mergence of you becoming one with that version of self in that octave of light, and you're feeling that energy, and you're hearing, you're like, yeah, it's something different, it's something better out there. Not something got to be better than this. If you're saying it, right, but you're projecting a different reality, then you're grounded. You're grounded to the reality because of the survival frequency. And now you got to rid yourself of the survival frequency. So breath work, you knowing that you are, this is not a reality. So when your survival frequency is projecting realities that you do not want to experience, I don't care how many times your mama, your daddy, your sister, your brother, life, hell, even Jesus Christ, I don't care if they came down and said to you that this is real. Come on. I don't care how many times they have said to you that this is real. If it's projecting a reality that is not what you want to experience, it is an illusion. This is not my chosen reality. I no longer choose reality that is of distortion. I choose A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Whatever your arc is, your frequency arc is of the frequencies that you are choosing: love, harmony, joy, happiness, comic, what Cobb say, jokes, whatever your chosen arc is in terms of your frequency, that's your chosen reality. If your chosen reality does not look like like how Noah put all them animals, his chosen reality was putting all them damn animals in the ark. If your arc don't look like what you done put in your container, if your reality don't look like, if your frequency bands don't look like what you put in them damn container, then whatever is being projected out there, that is not your chosen reality. Your chosen reality is what you put in your damn ark. Okay? That's your chosen reality. And you got to stick beside it. I'm going to stick beside it. Okay? You got to stick beside it. Okay? You got to stick beside it. Okay? Right? That's your chosen reality. So if your chosen reality don't look like what you have put in your ark, okay, then that's no longer the chosen reality. That's a distorted reality. That is a distorted reality. That is a reality that is no longer chosen. The only reason why you're projecting that reality is because you are hardwired to survival, and survival has not yet trusted what the higher mind is saying is a true reality. Because you have been, however long you have been in the survival reality, the survival reality is your nervous system is saying, shoot, I don't trust that. You've been in survival for 30 years. You've been in survival for 25 years, 35, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. You've been in survival in increments of 5. You feel what I'm saying? So it's not trusting until you have you have decided, you have really have to be adamant that no matter what your field is showing you, that it's no longer the chosen reality. And you gotta gain control. That's right, because that feel is gonna feel real. because it has been a chosen reality for a very long time, because you have chosen survival for, a very long time. And that's what you're used to, right? Yeah, you go, take the wheel. You got to take the wheel. Yes. You got to take the wheel. Okay? Right? But look at how simple it is. It really is simple. I didn't go into all of that other stuff. There are a plethora of stories out there, you guys. And they're beautiful stories. I'm not taking it away. I'm not taking any of the stories away that has commenced. There are beautiful stories out there. But when you listen to these stories that are taking place, figure out the braiding of the frequencies that are braiding. Does it have a hint of hierarchy in it? Does it have a hint of racism in it? Does it have a hint of the light is less than the darkness, or the darkness is better than the light? These are keynote things to let you know, if it's a wolf in sheep clothing, because hierarchy loves to put on a robe, loves to put on a spiritual robe. It does. Right? And bring in illusion codes. Right? And, and distortion. There was so much great distortion where hues were concerned. Somebody just want to be right. Somebody just want to be true. But when you 0 point everything and say all truths are truths, and everybody is right for how they are creating their reality, you bring everything back to 0, then where is the distortion? There is no more distortion. You just canceled it out because you have now placed everything back into its proper position, and that is source. Source is creating it. So there could never be no wrong because source created it. Source allowed it. It's permissible, no matter how egregious it is. Because if source gave it the code, source got a matter of either correcting the code or dissolving the code. You bring it back to 0. So now where is the hierarchy? Where is the right and the wrong? When you begin to understand the true self, where is the debate? Where is the argument? There is none. I can experience saying that you right or wrong just for, shits and giggles. I can experience it just because I want to have something to do, just because I want to, say something and, make you laugh or, just, get a rise out you and stuff like that. But in real life energy, from an energetic perspective, which is the truth of you, all right? So the Great Reset is just simply as that. It's either going to choose to reset and dissolve, or it's going to evolve, right? And, what they call death in the lower mind is what we call transitioning into another reality at the vibrational frequencies that you carry with you in your arc of covenant, what you have chosen as a covenant to experience and express, right? It's a transition. Transitional codes, right? It's, there's no fear in that. That's why it's, I love being in this space, and I love, sharing this aspect of me in the purity that I've chosen, because it even feels amazing to be able to, because I remember my journey. I remember my journey. I remember my journey to this point, and it had a lot of frustration. But for me to be able to sit here and not be frustrated, and to be able to share and articulate and, have a flow, and, have this peace and this sense of understanding. I love being able to express that on to others, so that they too can have this frequency of peace, and, understanding, and, this more easier transition into the metaphysical, sacred, divine self. All right. Because, I know in my journey, it was a lot. I went through a lot to get to this space. And I hope that, now and moving forward, from being on Instagram, and, now migrating to YouTube, nothing is going to change in terms of, my flow. But I would love for, the change that I would love to see is that the transition be for others way more easier, so that, they don't feel as confused, and, grabbing for straws, and, it's very transparent, it's palatable, it's digestible. And, like I said, it's nothing to be feared. And the most important thing about coming to, these particular transmissions is, at least you get to experience transmissions that are not fear-based. You get the same type of information dealing, you're hearing it, similarity in terms of like some of the same parables and different things that has been placed out there. You're familiar with the parables, but the way that the parables are now being transmitted, you're hearing it in a different octave of frequency that is more tolerable than that to which it may have been originally told, that may have more had an element of distortion or a fear-based frequency undertone that was in it, right? And that's to be able to help along the shift of those who, have dissolved the illusion, but still is probably experiencing that to which I call, as I've said, the sacred lag. So we're going to, I'm going to end the live here, and I'm always grateful, for my fantastic two and everybody that has came into the live. They may not have probably been into the live chat, but I'm grateful nevertheless to see that you were here, a part of the live. Good day, good night, Dragon F1. Gratitude for your presence. Thank you for divinely tuning into my frequency. I'm so divinely grateful. I hope you were here for the live. I'm about to end the live, but hopefully YouTube allow me to upload it. That's kind of been one of my issues with YouTube, is I'll be able to do the live, but then when it comes to comes time to upload, it don't let me upload. I have a little bit of issue upload. Oh, you were here. Okay, wonderful. I'm grateful. Thank you. So, as I said, I'm going to be here more often. And I'll probably start off IG and say, guys, I'm going live, to which I, I'll do a video. That video took me a minute to do, so I probably just jump on live and say I'm going live, and then that can help transition people to come, you know, from IG over into YouTube and everything. Because that video that I did today, saying that I was going live, that took me a good 2 hours to do. It took me 2.5 hours to make. So yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys again. Thank you for taking the time out to listen. The Great Reset. And if you have any questions or anything, please do not hesitate to comment under the video. And if you like the video, please, like the video. Mr. Over say, let's do it again here. Okay, I'm grateful. Thank you, Mr. Over. We can definitely do it here. I like that. If I can get the house to stay quiet, I do get a lot of interruptions when I'm home, as you guys can see. That's why, but my husband is working with me, so we're working together. So it might just work out. I'm trying. I'm trying. How do you guys like it at night? Do you guys prefer it at night, or do you guys prefer it during the day? We can work some things out. So if you like the video, please subscribe, right? Please subscribe and leave a comment to, what you feel about this transmission. I am so very grateful. And thank you, Mr. Overit. Thank you, Kazi Kaz, and everybody else. Thank you, Dragon F1. Thank you, guys. It's either for you, Kazi. Okay, I'm grateful. And thank you, guys, and everybody else that was here. I'm so grateful, and I'll see you guys on the next run. All right? Love you guys. Thank you, Mr. Ulrich. All right, guys, later. Bye, Kaz.